What's up guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. It's coming down pretty good out here today. It's been pretty nice the last couple days, pretty warm. The snow was almost melted off completely, and then today it's supposed to snow about 3 to 8 inches I think. But that would be good for rabbit hunting coming up here. So anyway, today I'm showing you another old video from back when I was in high school. This video is from 2017. That squirrel hunt that you watched was 2016, so not really that long ago. To me it seems like quite a while ago because a lot has changed for me since that time frame, but as a senior I didn't have to take a whole bunch of classes, so I had quite a bit of time that year to hunt. This hunt takes place over Thanksgiving break, so I had all day to hunt pretty much. When I was in high school I had a couple different spots that I could hunt by permission on some private ground. Hunted a lot of public ground that was around the house, but every once in a while if I was running short on time or something, I'd run over to some of these properties, and a lot of them were really good, as you're about to see. This place had 2 really nice bucks on it the day that I was hunting it, and it was less than an acre, but it was a big draw surrounded by cornfields. I didn't spend a whole lot of time in there because it was such a small acreage that I didn't want to go in there very often and blow things up. So we picked and chose our days, hunted it early season like I said, then hunted it middle of the season, and then towards the end of the season, which is when this hunt takes place. So anyway, here's that video right now.
Well, it's November 19th. It's about 3 o'clock. I just got set up for this afternoon's hunt. So this afternoon I decided to come back into this spot where me and Dad hunted that big 9-pointer opening night. I've been in here a couple times this year, not a whole bunch, but a lot of times they'll bed in this gully. But I was lucky today that either they weren't bedded down in there or I snuck in here good enough and didn't spook any of them. A lot of times what happens is they cross this fence right here, they come across this hayfield and jump the fence, and they'll be right in my lap if they do that. Hopefully they're heading out to the cornfields or heading over to the acorns over that way tonight, and something comes by for me to shoot. Well, another crazy encounter tonight. It was probably about 4 or 4:30, and all of a sudden I look over and here comes that first buck. I don't know how much footage I got even of any of it, but I tried to get the video camera on him. He was coming right to that crossing, like I said in the first time I talked. I said they cross this fence right there. He walks right up to where that trail crosses the fence, and he stands there and he stops right at that fence, and he's just kind of looking around. And he actually had a drop tine on him. Not real big, just a little one, but that's the first one I've ever seen with a drop tine in real life. But he walked right up to that fence, and I figured he's gonna jump it because he's right where that trail is, and I figured he's gonna jump it and give me a 10-yard shot right there. Well, what happened is he stopped, looked, and then he ended up going to my left, and there's a fence there. That fence, and he's broadside at 20 yards, which is just torture because I can't even shoot. So then I'm thinking he's gonna jump behind me. Well, he doesn't. Turns around, walks all the way up the fence, jumps it, turns in, drops down in that gully, and then all of a sudden his ears lay back and he's kind of getting bristled up, and that 9-pointer that me and Zip saw on opening day stands up out of its bed, and I'm like, that is just nuts. And I can't believe I got in there without busting him, first of all, because he had to have been bedded there when I walked in, but he bristled up to him. 9-pointer stands up, and that 9-pointer is way, way, way bigger than that drop tine buck. But then that drop tine moves on, and he's walking, that gully goes up, so he's like eye level with me, which is torture because he's 50 yards, but he's eye level broadside and looks way closer than 50. And then he stops and looks, and then a spike comes around off the other side of the hill, dilly-dallies around with that spike, and then he moves off, jumps to the fence and took off. I don't know where he was going, but back into the creek that's back there. And then that 9-pointer, as I was watching him, I was hoping he was going to come my way, but he just stood there in the same spot, and then he kind of moved a little bit every once in a while, and I could tell he was limping, and every little bit he would reach back and lick. He must have got hit with shot, or maybe hit by a car is what I was thinking, but I don't know. It almost, when I was looking at him, it looked like he might have had something in his back leg, like a hole, like he got shot in the leg, but I'm not really sure. I couldn't tell for sure. I'm gonna have to look at the video. But so I had to wait until it's probably about, it's 6 o'clock right now. Sunset's at 5, so I waited in plenty after dark to come out of there, and I don't think I ever spooked that 9-pointer, but I got Thanksgiving break this week for part of the week, so I'll have a little bit of time to hunt. So I'll definitely be back in there the rest of this week trying to get one of those bucks on the ground.
And that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Obviously, I'm not editing these videos now. These were videos that I edited back when I was first starting to film stuff and trying to figure things out. So they're pretty rough, and I haven't made any changes to them. I think it's kind of funny to look back and see how I was editing those videos and see how much better it's gotten since I learned how to do it from the THP guys. So there's a few things that I want to point out from the video. That buck that comes in, I was set up right on that fence crossing because I knew that a lot of times they like to walk down that fence, jump the fence right there, and then they'd go out into the fields, but they'd go through that draw. So I was set up right on that fence crossing where that first buck came down, and he looked at it, and then he went back to the left, and then for some reason he turned back, and I thought he was going to jump at that time, but then he kept going. And what I think was happening is he could smell that other buck that was up on the hillside, and he eventually went up the fence further, crossed up further away from me, and then went straight to where that buck was laying down at. It's pretty interesting to see how he did that, and I think that's the only reason he didn't cross the fence right where I was sitting at, because that's where they would cross it all the time, back and forth. But instead he pretty much made a beeline straight for that buck. I'm assuming he could smell him in there, and went over there and bristled up to him and got him up on his feet. But that other buck, the big 9-pointer, was hurt real bad. Looked like he maybe got hit by a car or something, and he was just laying in there on that hillside. Once I saw that, I did actually go back in there the next morning, I think. Had pretty similar conditions, and after seeing how that buck was hurt, I came back and talked to Dad about it, and he said that I should probably just get right back in there the next morning, because that buck was probably going to be laying in that same spot since he was hurt so bad. He probably wasn't going to be up moving around and switching beds unless he really had to for some reason. So that's what I did, and I didn't end up showing this in that video, but I crawled in there the next day and started belly crawling in to where that buck was laying. And I just had a GoPro strapped to my head. I didn't know exactly where he was at, but I had a pretty good idea, especially when I was crawling through there. I didn't want to get up and look and spook him, so I just was kind of trying to figure it out when I was down on the ground. And I ended up crawling to like 5 yards of that buck. I was on my hands and knees crawling, and I knew he was like getting pretty close to where he was, and all of a sudden I look up and he's like 5 yards away. I ended up crawling in way too close, and I'm assuming he heard me crawling or something, and he got up to look, because when I saw him, he was standing there trying to see where I was at, see what was making that noise. It's pretty cool to look back at and see. He was laying there on that hillside. I crawled in, he got up and looked, and then he came right down to the trail that I was crawling in on and stood there and looked at me trying to figure out what I was. I eventually kind of got up and got drawn, but he busted pretty quick after I started moving around and took off out of there. So what I wish I would have done in that situation is carried a rock with me, and just as I started getting closer to where I thought he was laying, just start throwing a rock out there and see if he could stand up, you know, before I get in too close. Because if I threw it and he was like 30 yards away or something, I might be able to get a shot, or I might be able to close, you know, another 10 yards or something and then get a shot. The mistake I made when I was crawling in on him is just kept crawling without knowing exactly where he was at. So anyway, you live and you learn. It's always fun to get out and do some hunting like that, crawling around on them and seeing what you can do. But thanks guys for watching the video. Hope you guys are enjoying some of these old hunts. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.